Jack here, JBF Music and Guitar Lessons, back with some more musical goodness for you in the form of these Marty Friedman style dominant 7 flat 9 arpeggios. Don't let the fancy name put you off, it's really just a way of categorising a specific type of sound. This Licks to Impress, we're looking at 7 Marty Friedman arpeggios in A. Some are kind of based on his style, some have been adapted, and others are just transposed into this key. They're all over the fretboard, so you won't get trapped in one area of the neck. For more information on overcoming that obstacle in general, check out the little eye up there. Now, my ear is nowhere near as good as Marty's, so by all means adapt these licks as you see fit. As usual, all the tabs and that sort of thing are up on my patreon.com/JBF Music. If you like this, do let me know with a like and a comment. Both are really helpful for the channel and also makes this video easier for other people to find. It pops up in searches and that kind of thing. Hit subscribe and enable all notifications to see more of this kind of thing, and make sure you never miss out on new content. Okay, I don't want to derail this with too much music theory, but let's cover some of the basics. A dominant 7 flat 9 is sort of a mashup between a Beatlesy sounding dominant 7 type thing and maybe a more dissonant Yngwie J. Malmsteen diminished type sound. For a deeper dive on the applications of that, check out the little eye up there. But when we combine those two sounds, we get that distinctive, which Marty Friedman often uses in a more exotic way. More on that again with a little eye up there. And to look at the notes that make that up, a dominant 7 flat 9 is made of a root, a third, a fifth, flat 7th, and a flat 9th. Those intervals turn into these notes when we're in the key of E. So we have an E for the root, G sharp for the major third, we've got a B, which is the 5th, D is the flat 7th, and F is that flat 9. You can think of it as a second, but an octave higher. And being a semitone higher than the root, that's where you get a lot of the edgy dissonance. So that's where a lot of that comes from. So throughout the following licks, we'll only be using those 5 notes: E, G sharp, B, D, and F. If you want to know more about the Phrygian dominant, the scale from which this chord is derived, give the little eye up there a click for a whole tutorial on that. I've tried to put these licks in ascending difficulty, but they're all really quite tricky, so jump about as needed via the chapters or the timestamps below. Okay, the main takeaway here is use of slides and hammer-ons to get a more fluid sound. We're going up an E dominant 7 sweep through the root, the third, the 5th, hammering onto the flat 7th, sweeping some more with the root, then we're sliding from the 3rd to the 5th, back to the 3rd. The spice in this lick comes in on the way down, when we sweep up, hitting the 6th fret here in the B string. So this is the flat 9, that's where the kind of tension comes in, sliding down to the flat 7 this time, and wrapping up on the 5th, adding in a nice wide vibrato there. right, more legato again, also position shifts, some string skipping, treating it almost like a scale with those 12th, 14th and 15th frets, that kind of bit around there. So we're kicking it off with the root, 3rd hammer to the 5th, legato here, we got the flat 7th, root, flat 9, root, flat 7th, down to this 5th, flat 7th, we're going to hammer to the root, slide to the flat 9. This slide gives a really smooth position shift for this next string skip. Trill, 3rd, 5th, 3rd, root, 3rd hammer to the 5th again. A string skip, so we're going to jump over the B string here. I probably hit this with a down and then the E string with an up. And we're going to hit the root, 3rd, and just hammering that on, pulling off to the root, hitting the 5th here, and sliding down to the 3rd. I'd put on an arrow vibrato here, but if you want to really put on a kind of wider one, it's just totally up to you, that'll sound good as well. I reckon this resolving to the 3rd is the most typical Marty Friedman sound, probably followed by the root, flat 7th, 5th and flat 9th in that order. A vaguely Chris Poland sort of sound would maybe finish on the 5th instead. Cool, main things here are tapping into the more exotic sounds, again using legato, and again the idea of taking a sequence but articulating the notes a bit differently. Like that with that overlay, hopefully you can see this is really the same idea, just taken down through the arpeggio, only the second time we're bending the 14th fret. So what I mean by that is we have this idea, and then essentially the same thing through the scale, but rather than hammering on there, did a little bend. Let's break down the notes. 3rd, legato here, so you're going to go 9th, 3rd, 9th, slide down to the root, 9th, pull off to the root. Flat 7th, pull on off to the 5th. Got the 3rd, 5th, a trill, going from the 3rd to the 5th, going back up to the 3rd, root, bend it to the flat 9, release, pull off to the flat 7, 5th, pull off to the 3rd, and then the root. Again, I'm adding on a kind of wide vibrato there. Okay, the main idea is here, again, legato, bends, bending out notes into key, more in Friedmanish ways of doing that with a little eye up there, vibrato creating a more melodic line rather than a full-on shred arpeggio. So we have the root here, sliding to the flat 9th, 3rd, hammering the 5th, got a trill going from the flat 7th to the flat 9, back to the flat 7, 5th, we're bending an out note here, the major 7th, up to the root, so you want to make this bend quite quick. You keep that bend held and then slide it up a semitone. So we bent up to the flat 9, add in the vibrato. That move might take a little while and you might do a slight dip when you slide. That's totally fine. If you can slide and keep it there, that's fine as well. Whatever you prefer, whatever is easiest, they both sound great. Similar idea, an octave higher, bending the major 7th up a semitone to the root. This time you probably do want to unbend it a little bit and then quickly slide up to the root, where we'll bend that by a flat 9. So you have this one, and up to there. Now, if you're playing this at a kind of a slightly faster speed, you can get away with just hitting this note once, sliding up. If you're playing it slower, and you got a noise gate on like I do, the note might die out, which I think happened in the slowest playthrough I did there. So in that case, you need to just hit hit the note again. But it's perfectly possible to bend it, dip it a little bit, slide, bend again, and get the note when you're playing it a wee bit faster. And we wrap it up by just raking into the fifth and adding in a little bit of vibrato. Okay, using the typical diminished sweep shape here, this one. More legato and position shifting, using some palm muting to create a bit of a rhythmic groove with that thing going on. I'm bending an out of note into key. We're starting on the flat 7th here. I'm also using my neck pickup for the first half, then changing to my bridge for the kind of muted part. Do what you want, but I had the most success in terms of keeping it clean and getting the kind of tone I wanted. But yeah, as I say, starting on this flat 7th, hammer on the flat 9, sweeping through the 3rd and the 5th, hammer on the flat 7th, sliding to the root. As a side note, you could slide up to the flat 9th, a semitone higher, sound a bit more Yngwie. Less Beatlesy. What I opted to do, as you know, is slide up to the root. So we're back down to the flat 7th, pulling off to the 5th, sweeping up through the 3rd, the root, the 5th, sliding down to the 3rd, and adding in vibrato. Now here you might want to just do like a kind of little kind of quarter tone bend rather than a full-on vibrato. See which you prefer. I think I probably prefer the little kind of exotic twang rather than a full-on vibrato thing. This is where I switch to my bridge pickup. We're picking the 5th, flat 7th, 5th, and root, repeating those last 4 notes. Then we have the flat 7th to the root, a trill between those notes, 5th, the root, which is just the open string here, E, hammering on the flat 3rd, bend a semitone up to pitch, adding in vibrato. So we're bending the flat 3rd there up to the major 3rd, and with a nice wide vibrato to get that kind of Friedman style. Alright, usual tricks at play here. We've got sweeping, legato, position shifts, and in terms of the note choice, we have the flat 7th, flat 9th, hammering to the 3rd, 5th, flat 7th, where we hammer to the flat 9, slide all the way up to the 3rd, we pull off back to that flat 9, we're sweeping up now, we've got the flat 7th, the 5th, pulling off to the 3rd, flat 9, we're going to sweep down now through the root, 3rd, hammer onto the 5th, flat 7th, flat 9th, hammering that 3rd, sliding all the way up to the 5th, back down to the 3rd, pull off to the flat 9, then we're going to sweep through the flat 7th, flat 9, hammer the 3rd to finish it up. Alright, last one up here, and good going if you've made it this far. Shout out to the Lick Squad Elite. You guys rock. So here we've got more sweeping, legato, position shifts, vibrato, bends, typical diminished shape, and combining some shred with some more melodic ideas as well. And in terms of the note choice, we're sweeping up through the major arpeggio, going through the root, third, fifth, root, sliding up to the third, hammer onto the fifth, pull off to the third, root, third, hammer onto the fifth, slide up to the flat seventh. We're then sweeping through the flat ninth, the third, hammering on the fifth, hammering on the flat seventh, pulling off to the fifth, pulling off to the third, got the flat ninth, third, flat ninth, sliding to the root. We then have the third, sliding to the root on the E string, hammer onto the flat nine, pull off to the root, sweeping through the fifth, the third, the root, sliding down to the flat seventh, adding on a bit of vibrato. And then what we're doing here is bending a tone to hit the root, back to pitch, and then another bend, this time a tone and a half. So we're targeting this flat ninth. You want to pitch the bends to these notes. And we finish up by just taking the third, putting some vibrato on it and sliding down and out of it. Okay, hopefully all those licks have given you some ways in which you can use this arpeggio to create Marty Friedman style lines, or indeed your own phrases and ideas. Check out that video for some more Marty Friedman leads. This has been Signature Guitar Licks, that's the playlist there, but yeah, hit subscribe to keep up to date with the channel, leave me a comment, check out the tabs on my Patreon, and enable all notifications by ringing that little bell on the side if you feel so inclined. Cheers guys.